Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another installation of Berkeley Arts and Design Visual Cultures lecture series. I'm very glad that you could join us and really excited to introduce our speaker today, Amor Muñoz, who's joining us from Mexico City to talk about bits and threads. Before we get into that, I just want to remind you that if you have questions, please use the Q&A button. And at the end of the session, questions will be asked as we receive them. And my colleagues, Edgar Fabian Frias and Hala Kadura, are going to manage the question and answer session. I also want to thank Paris Coates for organizing the whole event and making sure all your registrations worked out and setting up the whole structure here. We're very grateful for that, and it wouldn't work without you. So thank you so much, Paris. And I'd like to thank our sponsors who make this possible. This lecture series, of course, is the Berkeley Arts and Design Group, as well as the the Division of Letters and Sciences at UC Berkeley, who make these kinds of courses available for all students across the university to have creative experiences. We believe that creativity really is a driving force of all human endeavors, and we want to make sure that all students can develop their sense of creativity and exercise their sense of creativity as part of their studies. So therefore, we're discussing visual cultures, and we're discussing how visual cultures make things visible and invisible. Our speaker today is Amor Muñoz, who's a visual artist from Mexico City, as I mentioned, and she has a favorite quote: if you want to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. That is a quote by Nikola Tesla, and it's on her email, so I just wanted to mention that quickly. It's a beautiful quote. Amor Muñoz combines older craft traditions with the interactivity of social media and open source software development. Her work involves textiles, performance, drawing, sound, and experimental electronics, exploring the relationships between technology and society, creating a new technical context for manual labor, and giving a warm radiance to cold code and diagrams. She's interested in how technology affects manufacturing systems and how manual labor and crafts change in a contemporary global economy. Earlier, we discussed in this class soft power, the power by which cultures and nations get to influence each other, or even individual artists get to make contributions to the field of possibilities in which we can realize our hopes and dreams through their artwork. And that power is not a hard power. It's not like police or military. That is a soft power. Very much, I believe that Amor Muñoz's work is a great example of that kind of soft power. Amor Muñoz's research focuses on the history of technology, language systems, technological obsolescence, crafts, and production systems. In this talk, she will discuss past projects, including her mobile factories, textile memories, and tangible music interfaces, and she will materialize new sounds with crafts on the fly. I think Amor is also going to show us her very latest project, which is a glass stomach, which I can't wait to hear more about. And I just wanted to acknowledge that we first met, Amor and I, last year at an exhibit she held at Untitled Art Fair in San Francisco, which was a collaboration between the Conlon and Caro House, where she lives and works in Mexico City, and also the Clandestina Gallery in Miami. Muñoz studied at the National Autonomous University of Mexico and the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts, and her art has been exhibited in museums, galleries, and festivals around the world. She received an honorable mention in hybrid art at the 2012 Prix Ars Electronica and the New Face Award at the 2013 Japan Media Arts Festival. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Amor Muñoz, and please join me in welcoming her. Here comes the digital applause. And I'm going to stop sharing my slides now, Amor, and the floor is yours. I'm so glad you can join us today. How's life in Mexico City right now?
Yeah, it's very sunny. It's a beautiful day. Now I'm in my studio working on a new project, but I'm very happy to be here. And oh, there's the slide.
We're getting slides. That's great.
Okay. So thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you, Greg, Paris, all the team of Berkeley Arts and Design. I'm very happy to be here sharing in this virtual space with all of you. My English is not really good, but I will try to do my best. I'm a self-taught artist. My training was as a lawyer, so all the time I'm learning the maker movement, the do-it-yourself strategies, and the open source culture have been important in my development as artist. I work with the textiles, performance, drawing, sound, and experimental electronics to explore the relationship between technology, arts, and society. I'm very interested in how technology affects the fabrication systems and how the manual labor and handcrafts are changing in a contemporary global economy. My research is focused on the history of technology, language systems, appropriate technologies, labor, handcrafts, etc. So the next slide, please. Okay, well, so textile and technology have been connected throughout history. The textile itself is a technology. The textile is memory, coding, structure of thought. Now I'm going to share with you 3 references of this relationship in the technology history. So in the first example is a quipu. The quipu are part of, the quipus are a note record. It was a method to well, used by the Incas, the pre-Columbian cultures, to keep records and communicate information. This device works with different colors, strings, and notes in different ways to record dates, statistics, accounts, and events. The quipus are part of the past, but they are not used today. They are obsolete. But there is another technology from the past that is still useful today. That is used in many indigenous communities. It's the waist loom or backstrap loom. For me, it's incredible that that primitive technology is in force. Still, it continues solving problems and needs of the communities to make clothes, utilitarian objects, or just to make commercial handcrafts, for tourists. The primitive looms have been used for centuries and have been protagonists of technological transformation. Example is the Jacquard loom. That's the third reference. The Jacquard loom is one of the most important inventions in the Industrial Revolution, by example. So the Jacquard machine is a mechanical loom that works with programming system using punch cards, and that punch cards have a code, having coded patterns that will be woven. I think this reference is very beautiful. I think it's one of the most popular reference to connect textiles and technology. The next, please. I discovered the electronic textiles in 2009 doing research on internet. I found that there is a conductive textile, conductive materials like textiles, like fabrics. For me, it was really beautiful to think that the electricity can travel in a very fragile material as a thread. So I found different types of threads, that threads are fibers covered with, for example, silver, with copper, or stainless steel. I also discovered the work of Leah Buckley. She's a professor in the MIT, and I think she's one of the pioneers of electronic textiles. She invented an Arduino to make flexible circuits. And well, we can see in general the electronic textiles have been applied in fashion design or wearable technologies. But for me, that way was not very interesting in artistic terms. And I found another way to apply the electronic textiles in my work. The next, please. Okay, my first works were focused on drawing in the expanded field. I was interested in relate the drawing to a space, to time, and action. When I discovered the technical engineering drawings, I found a new way to put the drawing in tension. Thinking about drawing as a machine, the drawing like a functional device, led me to make a project called schematics. The next, please. So schematics and PCB are representations that are used to make electronic circuits. That system is universal. It uses universal symbols that represent physical elements like capacitors, transistors, resistors. With this project, I learned basic electronics. The first step, it was to understand the drawing and then to materialize it on breadboard, and then to build the artifact, the machine. In this case, the machine is a big embroidery of 3 meters, sewed with cotton threads and conductive threads. In each symbol, for example, here we can see a transistor, is the symbol of the transistor. And you can see also the element, the physical element, the real transistor. So each symbol have the real element, and all the electronics are connected with conductive thread. The next, please. So I'm going to show you this video of the first schematic that I create. It's an electronic organ. It's important, for example, the buttons, the original, the real object is in plastic and metal, but I try in that project to transform the plastic, the hard electronics in a soft components. So I create textile buttons for this project. So can we play it, please? Okay, thanks. The next, please.
Before you go, can I ask?
Yes.
Can I ask you a quick question, which is, the electronics are much larger than they normally are. They bring them up to body scale. Why did you do that? Why was that important to you, to make it so large that you can sort of dance with it again? It's beautiful.
Yes,
I wonder.
Yes, the idea was to have a big machines, and it was a big goal, big challenge, because we follow regular schematics, but the resistance change. all the threads, the conductive thread, have a resistance. When you have long distance, you have more resistance. So it was super crazy to create that pieces in a big scale with conductive thread, but for me it was important to do it in a big scale, not to have that effect. This is a machine. It's not just a drawing, no?
Yeah.
Because that's the point of the project, not to extend, to put in tension the drawing, no, like artifact.
Thank you.
So finally, everything. This is a view of the exhibition in a museum in Mexico City, the Laboratorio Arte Alameda. The exhibition includes 5 large-scale embroideries. So it was hard because finally the pieces are textiles and the pieces are very fragile. And the fact to be interactive have a high risk to be damaged. All the pieces, finally, everything was fine. Everything went well. The people interact with the pieces for 2 months, and that pieces were like electronic organ and pulse sensor, sound sensor, and a 555 chip. And the most funny and interesting piece was the breathalyzer. In Spanish is alcoholímetro. It's an alcohol sensor, the breathalyzer. So it was very nice because in the opening of the exhibition, all the people had to drink a shot of tequila to interact with the piece, no? So when the gas sensor detect the alcohol, an ambulance siren was activated. So it was funny for the opening. The next, please. So it was the first experiment that I have with electronic textiles. That's the image, no, of the people drinking tequila to make possible the art. Okay, the next, please. Okay, well, in my work, I have a series of social art projects. For me, the art has allowed me to create projects that generate poetics, but also to create projects that generate utopias. So I'm interested to create also projects that reflect and criticize social issues. The labor is a constant topic in my work. So in this case, I would talk about Maquila's art factories in the border of Mexico and United States. That border town factories in Mexico provides raw materials and cheap labor, mostly women, and the US provide management and ownership. So this is not a very good scam for Mexico. It's not really good, but with this project, the next, please. Yes, with this project, I tried to criticize and reflect about that situation of the workers in the factories in the border of Mexico and United States. The next, please. So Maquila Region 4 is the project. Maquila is a performative intervention in the labor landscape of marginal areas of Mexico. The project seeks to recreate a social and economic phenomena, proposing a utopia about labor justice. Can you imagine a factory that pay a good wage to Mexican labor? So the next, please. So Maquila Region 4 is a mobile factory For the manufacture of electronic textile artworks, this nomadic workshop travels poor areas of Mexico, offering the American minimum wage. It's important to mention that the Mexican wage is the 8% of the American wage or salary. For that reason, that companies cross the border to pay that very cheap labor, to pay the 8% of the salary. So that's a horrible situation. The next, please. So the people sign in the street, sign a contract, an agreement, and then they have to embroider electronic circuits with conductive thread during 3 or 4 hours. In this case, we can see a guy embroidering a PCB. The next, please. Well, when the piece, when they finish, after a few hours, the worker will pack the work, the piece and the materials, and they receive a payment. I think this is my favorite part of the project because the people are happy when they receive the money, and because they and in that moment they realize that their work has a value. The next, please. So I attach in all the pieces when are finished. I attach that embroidered is a BD code. In that code, I code in all the information of the worker. The next, please. So in an exhibition in the museum, when the people see the pieces, they can scan the code and they can get all the production info. If you decode the BD, you can see the face of the worker, the name of the worker, and how many hours the worker worked, and how much money, in this case, she received for the work. This is very important. I try to make visible the most important component in the fabrication systems, the worker. The problem is when we buy a product, we never think about that human face. We never think about the worker. We think about the brand, the materials, the design, other kind of things, but we never think about the workers. And for that, why or for what reason is very cheap, the product? Yeah. So this is one of my favorite projects. The next, please.
Sorry, before you go on, can you tell me more about why you titled the work Maquila Region 4? Is there a Region 3 and 2 and 1 as well?
Well, in Mexico, we use the expression, that's Region 4. It's kind like to say that something is in low quality, because the division in the DVDs regions, Latin America is the Region 4. So when we say, this is a Region 4, it's like a very cheap quality, no?
Thank you.
Okay, so now I will start to talk about other project. It's not directly related with textiles, but it's part of the thread of this body of works connecting with the labor. The next, please. So this is Rhythmic Manufacturing. And this work is a performance based on mechanical labor. I take as reference the factory ensemble line. So I translate the act of drawing into the monotony or monotonous manual reproduction on paper of electronic components like transistor and capacitors. The next, please. We can see
so beautiful.
the transistors in watercolors. And for this, I'm inspired by constructivist approach to art and mass production. I continue the tradition of body and durational performance. I synchronize my body and my movements with the rhythm of the metronome. The next, please. So the next, we're going to see the video. So the idea is to make every movement with the rhythm of the metronome, inclusive the act of drawing. We can see it in the video. Play, please. So that's the action, but that action is for 8 hours every day. 8 hours every day. In this case, I create that piece in the SFMOMA. I have the honor to be part of the exhibition Soundtracks. That exhibition was created by Rudolf Frelin and Tania Zimbardo. So it was amazing to be in the museum for 5 days, 8 hours every day, working, like a machine, pretending to be a machine, drawing, manufacturing that electronic components. So it was hard for the brain. It was hard to be there doing the same thing all the time. The next, please. So after the performance, the installation was there for a few months. During the 5 days, I drew like 1,000 components in watercolors. So the next, please. The next. So I'm going to talk about this project, Matter and Memory. In 2017, I traveled to Germany to have for an artist residency in Bauhaus Dessau Foundation. For me, it was one of the most beautiful and romantic experience in my life, in my career. I was living in the master's houses in the Muche and Schlemmer house. And the project was focused about, yes, my practice with electronic textiles, but connected with Annie Albert's artworks. So Matter and Memory is a project that it's a reflection on systems of coding, language, and memory. The next, please. The idea was to create textiles with memory, but not an anthropological memory. In this case, I was thinking to create textiles, but like a real technological memory as a container of data. So the project is inspired by the magnetic core memories of the computers from the 50s, well, from the last century, in 50s and 60s, and the works by Annie Albers. So Here we can see in your left side this tapestry by Annie Albers. She was fascinated about the pre-Columbian textiles. For her, they were her masters, and she found something very interesting in that pre-Columbian textiles. That textiles have very complex technique, very complex patterns, and very, very interesting symbols, drawings. So for Annie Albers, all that was a language. All that symbols mean something. So Annie Albers create some artworks with that topic, not with the code. This piece, the name is Open Letter. So it's a letter, but with codification. And for me, it was very interesting to connect that artworks with the magnetic core memories, because that magnetic core memories were woven, are real looms, very small looms woven with copper thread, well, copper wires and magnets. So it's very beautiful to think that the first technological memories were woven. And at the next, please. So during the residency in Bauhaus, I was studying the binary language for the computers. And I create a graphic language. I designed this graphic language based on binary code using, by example, I did not use the 8 bits. I just used 5 bits to get the different letters, A, B, C. So I translate the zeros and ones in black and white. So in that way, I create that alphabet, binary alphabet. So the point to create that alphabet, it was to create a series of textiles that contain coded information. The next, please. So some of the message in our secret message, but I will tell you some of that messages. One of the messages are: the memory is woven, warped, and weft, such as time and space. Other is intelligent handcraft, warped and weft, such as zeros and ones. And I don't know if my English is clear, but you have the text on your screen. The next, please. So yes, I finally create that textiles. Well, I'm gonna start the project with a small textile that I create in Bauhaus Dessau. To be honest, I just have I never woven in a loom. I just learned long time ago to weaving with a weight backstrap loom, but I'm not an expert. So the next, please. So it was funny because when I applied to this residency, I don't know why I have that romantic idea that, oh yes, the Bauhaus, and I was imagining the textile workshop, the tapestry workshop. But when I arrived to Dessau, I realized that they don't have nothing. No, of course, because with the Second War, nothing survived. So the people from the Bauhaus Foundation, they got a loom, a table loom for me to start the project. But it was funny because I received a big box with just woods. And when I opened the box, I was surprised. What's that? Where is the loom? No. So I spent 1 week to ensemble the loom. was crazy because the instructions were in Germany, in German. So it was crazy and without drawings. So it was so crazy to make it possible. But it was very interesting because in the moment when I was ensembling, how to say ensembling, the loom, I understand the logic to weaving. Can we play the video, please? So I spent 2 months weaving, learning and weaving in the Bauhaus, coding, message. The next, please. So
why did you wear a mask when you did that?
Sorry?
Why did you wear a beautiful mask when you did that?
It's a mask of Metropolis. It's a Metropolis mask. You know, I connect a lot of, I don't know, I try to connect things, no, and Bauhaus, Metropolis, there are different reference. Inclusive when I was in Dessau, I was listening a lot music by Bela Bartok. No, Bela Bartok was a very good friend of Walter Gropius, and I am a big fan of the Bela Bartok's music. I love it. So, well, I always try to connect, you know, points in my works. So, okay, when I back to Mexico, I create more textiles with this, well, under this project, but in a big scale. And the next, with artisan in Oaxaca. Oaxaca is the paradise of creators. It's an amazing place, a maker and artisans place. So we can see here a big tapestry with all the secret message. So this is just a view of one of that textiles, and the beautiful thing is it's an interactive piece. You don't need hardware, you don't need an electronic circuit, you don't need nothing of that. Per se, the textile is a technology, and the beautiful thing also is the interaction of the public and the piece is a kind of data processing. The next, please. Okay. So, after that, during the residency in Bauhaus, for me it was important also to create something with the architecture, and I made different interventions in the master's houses. Here is the Walter Gropius house. So code architectures is our site-specific interventions that seek to relate the architecture and computing, minimizing technological processes, using manual skills to create functional objects using analog and craft technologies consisting of painted wooded pieces with different combinations in black and white, creating secret message, and the public can decode that message. The next, please. So in the MUCA Schlemmer house, there is a black and white room. So that room was a special place for me to think, to reflect. And I was thinking this because that architecture is functional, is very functional. So I was feeling the sensation that I was living in a machine. So in that room, in that binary room, I was thinking, oh, this room is the memory of this house. And it made me think about that famous quote by Le Corbusier, you know, the houses are machines for living. So, okay, that machines, that houses need a memory, need a data. So I create that interventions with that small elements. And we can see that sculptures and the interaction with the people, they use the postcard with the alphabet to decode this. So here's another intervention in Mexico, in a beautiful building by Tadao Ando. The next.
That's an amazing photo.
Okay.
These are amazing photos, Amor. So beautiful.
How thanks. It's an amazing place from a local university, the UDEM. That's the center. Well, that's the Architecture, Design and Art Center Garza Sada in Monterrey. And that building was created by Tadao Ando, and it's really crazy. To be a school, an art school is wow, no? The next, please. And that building was made with local materials and with very artisanal techniques. In the left side, you can see like a plated detail with concrete. So it's very interesting. And it was for me important to make the intervention. The next, please. The next. So now here we are with the project of Notes and Folds. It's my recent project that I create in collaboration with Google Arts and Culture, the Mobilier National, and my colleague Rogelio Sosa, a Mexican artist, composer. And well, so Notes and Folds, it's an interactive installation that creates a connection between sound and form, programming, and art, handcraftsmanship. The three cylindrical sound sculptures have been covered with plated textiles whose textures are are translated into musical patterns. The public can activate the sculptures with the hands, just approaching the hands to the fabric, and that make that the cylinder rotate in different speeds and producing sounds in different registers. In a few words, in this installation is a kind of spatial, it's like a music box in a big scale. And in that music box, the score are the textile patterns. The next, please. So the idea was how to connect. I really love to work with context, right? So Google Arts and Culture and Mobilier National are in Paris, and I am in Mexico. And the engineers were in San Francisco. So it was a production in long distance, was so crazy. But the idea is how to connect something in the context of Paris. And so I take the plissé like a reference in the project. The plissé, or the plated fabrics, is a very traditional technique in the haute couture in Paris, in the fashion design. But at the same time, I was in Mexico, living in the Colon and Carro's studio. The next, please. So I connect that the plissé and the music notation with Colon and Carro. Colon and Carro was an amazing composer. He created music for player pianos, the mechanical pianos. But for that mechanical pianos, you need to punch paper, roll papers, to register the notations. But Nancaro made it by hand, and it has to be very precise. So in that case, it's very clear the artisan character. No, the last, sorry. So by example, Colon and Carro, Colon and Caro spent 1 year to punch a roll paper of 25 meters, just 1 year for that, and that means 10 minutes of music. So it's hard, the process, it's a lot of time just for 10 minutes of music. The next, please. Another reference is Morton Feldman. Morton Feldman is another American composer from the avant-garde, and he created different compositions based on the Persian rugs. For me, it was amazing to discover that reference because he made a symphony. He created different compositions based on the patterns and the colors of the carpets. The next, please. So in the project, in Notes and Falls, I used different patterns to have different tracks, sounds. So here we have the more simple example of plissé. And you can see the plissé, the plaited fabric, and the sound register. The next, please. So that's the exhibition. It's a group of sculptures with fabrics and metals. The next. So we can see the way to interact with that pillars. And the next. It was very nice also the context, because the installation was in this place from the Mobilier National. If you see in the back side, there are furniture. There are a lot of furnitures, and it was crazy because that furniture are historical. The Mobilier National is an institution that conserve and restore historical furniture. They restore furniture for Versailles or the Louvre Museum. So you can see there a throne on Napoleon. You can see there some chairs of Maria Antonietta or Louis XIV. So the context was amazing for the piece also. The next, please.
Amor, thank you. This is amazing. We have just a few more minutes left, so we have time for questions as well. So
okay. Let me show this, and we can start the questions. We can play it's just for 15 seconds, this video. So, okay, we don't have more time. Okay, yes. We can start the questions if you want, because I have more stuff for the talk, but yes, it's time. Sorry.
That's wonderful, Amor. Thank you so much for this fabulous talk. There's a very lively discussion about minimum wage going on, and many people really appreciated how you honored people's work, even though it wasn't honored through the minimum wage, it was honored through your work. And that's one topic. And there's many questions in the chat as well, and in the Q&A. So I'm going to, we can turn off the slides now, and I'm going to turn it over to Hala and Edgar to ask you a few questions. And wonderful talk. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm very sorry for my English is so bad.
Oh, no, not a problem at all. No, not one problem at all.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Amor. Nos dio mucho gusto. Hay mucha gente que está haciendo muchas preguntas en español y en inglés. Thank you so much for that amazing talk. We have a lot of questions in English and in Spanish. The first person I wanted to ask, I think they're still here. Esmeralda, you had a question if you want to ask it. Esmeralda, si tienes tu pregunta, ¿qué quieres preguntar a Amor, por favor?
Yes, let me get her 1 second here. Esmeralda, you're now able to speak.
Okay. Hi. Can you
Hi,
guys? Okay. Gracias por su presentación, estuvo muy bueno. Le quería preguntar cómo comenzó a hacer su arte y quién la inspiró o qué.
in Spanish or in English?
Oh.
Como que,
Well, in the law school, I start to be contact with people, writers, and people that make art. So they were my bad influencers. So I'm start because I grew up in a poor area in Mexico, in Ecatepec. So the first time that I went to the museum was in the university. I didn't have any idea what's contemporary art. So the National University, Autonomous of Mexico, the UNAM, opened my mind and I discovered art. I discovered a lot of things and I take like a possibility of life, the arts. For me, art was like a hobby. For that reason, I studied for lawyer. My idea was to change the world like a lawyer, but I discovered that there are illegal things that are good and are bad things that are legal. So I think the art is a better field to change the world, maybe.
Thank you.
great answer. Onwards.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a question from our student, Melissa Wu, and her question is, what were some technical skills, knowledge you had to gain in order to incorporate technology into your artworks?
I'm not sure if I understand in Spanish. Please, Edgar. I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Can you say again, which
Yeah.
one? Melissa Wu?
Melissa Wu.
¿Qué es la experiencia o conocimiento técnico que tuviste que aprender para poder incorporar tecnología en tu arte?
Okay. Oh, step by step. I mentioned that as an ex-lawyer, I didn't go to the art school, so the open source culture, the maker culture, the tutorials. Now we are living in a very special times. We have a lot of information in internet, so I learn with tutorials. It's very nice because you start to learn with the knowledge of others. You don't start to learn from zero, no? To start from the knowledge on others, and that's amazing. So yes, that in my practice, I collaborate with people of different fields, knowledge fields, different areas, and that's amazing, no? To work with musicians, with engineers, artisans. So that's amazing.
Thank you so much, Amor. I love your mindset of just, you're always thinking about possibilities and opportunities and how to relearn and rebrand ourselves. So thank you so much. I'm gonna pass it to Edgar.
Yeah, and I really appreciate how you're also naming that you're, tapping into a network of people that, who can support your practice, right? Who've done the work before too. So the next question I have is from a student named Christopher Ortiz. And they say, your work has been exhibited internationally and published across various platforms. What advice would you give to upcoming artists in having their work seen, at least locally?
Okay, that's a good question. I mentioned before, I didn't go to the art school. So when I start, I didn't have nothing. I didn't have connections. And in the end, the art world works with connections, have a VIP groups. So I'm not part of that groups. And the more democratic way to get things in your career is applying to calls. Unfortunately, there are open calls everywhere around the world. And the most beautiful experiences that I have in my career were applying the Bauhaus, Google Arts and Culture. I just apply, I send my proposals and they select my work. So if you don't have connections, if nobody cares your work, don't care. There are different ways to find your dreams.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate that answer.
Greg, do you have time for questions or?
let's do one more, and then to close, Amor, I'd like you to speak a little bit about the beautiful object that behind you that is a part of your new artwork. But let's do one quick question and then go there.
Okay, one question is from our student Dana Feng, and her question is, the social projects you created are amazing. What is your process for starting a new social project, and how do you decide which issue to combat?
Okay, well, the reason that I study law is because when I was young, I was thinking about justice, you know, because I grown up in an environment, a very violent environment, and an environment that I saw unequal things, you know, unequal class. Sorry, my English. So for that reason, I study for lawyer, and I think for that reason, I really enjoy, and it's important for me to create that social art projects. But I try to separate, you know, my artworks in my studio, like Knots and Folds, like Matter and Memory, to have separate from the social art projects. The social art projects are not commercial. You know, it's hard because you need to find support to make it possible, like Yucatec or Maquila. So, and it's not easy to create that artworks, no? To make the Yucatec artwork with the Yucatec project, I moved. I lived Mexico City for 5 years, and I moved to the peninsula of Yucatan because it's important to be engaged with the communities. No, it's not just to go 1 week and filming and taking photos and, hey, this is my social project. It's very important to involve, to have a compromiso,
a commitment.
With the community. No, it's important to be serious, and of course it's utopia. It's a utopia because that projects are not for long term, because I'm not a no governmental institution. I'm an artist. I don't have a lot of budget. I'm a poor artist. So and then are temporal projects because it's not easy to find support for that. No.
Thank you. Another beautiful answer, Amor. You're inspiring so many people. The comments are full of appreciation, and we're really grateful. Say a couple things about your sculpture in the back, if you will, before we wrap up.
I'm sorry.
Bless you.
It's not COVID. Okay, so this is a prototype of one of my sculptures for the project Hybrid. Hybrida is a project that that project is about new life forms. So I'm preparing a group of sound sculptures. So that sculptures are artificial bodies, but with organic beings inside. That's a stomach, a glass stomach. And inside we are going to put scubies. The scubies are symbiotic culture bacteria and yeast. So we're gonna have a live matter inside, and that sculptures will be alive with that component. The sculptures, they're going to express with sounds. We're going to have sensors for pH, for CO2 to get the data and create sounds. So it's just a metaphor about the new life forms. Now we are living special moments. Everybody is fascinated with topics like artificial intelligence or the synthetic biology, no?
Wow, thank you. I can't wait to see that. I hope it comes near here soon. Maybe we can figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, in 3 months, I hope to show that piece in the MUAC, in the University Museum of Contemporary Art in Mexico. We'll see. Everything depends of the pandemic situation.
Yeah. Best wishes for that. Thank you so much for a fabulous talk. I want to mention to everybody that the next talk is going to be with Isaac Julian and Leila Wiefer next week, Thursday, same time. Hope to see you there. And most importantly, thank you, Amor, for a wonderful time, and thank you all for coming
Thank you
and
very much.
sharing this moment with us. Have a beautiful day, and carry on, and let's do the work, okay? We're all inspired. Thank you, Amor. Bye.
Very much.
Bye. Gracias,
Ciao.
Amor.